Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for your patience yesterday as we were tired getting home on Monday night. Tired. We needed I needed a day off.
Yeah, I did. The morning was like, alarm went off, got up, but yeah, it felt rough. So thank you very much for bearing with us and giving us the day, but we are back.
Yay, we're back, and we're back the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Because that was the longest drive over an evening that we need to do. And then and then I'll be on the road for a good chunk of next couple weeks too.
Yeah, starting Monday, really, you're away, but we've got a busy few days ahead of us. We have the Sean Hartman show story showing in Devon tomorrow, in Edson on Friday, and then Drayton Valley on Saturday morning. So yeah, we are going to be busy, but then we'll have Saturday afternoon rest, Sunday of rest, and then you're in Cold Lake on Monday.
Yeah, we're busy. We're scheduled, and we keep working really hard for everybody to bring this documentary out and to continue to do the show with you all. So thanks to the people who reached out and said, take a day. Thank you very much. We did.
Yeah, no, we did. It was needed, but we're going to be a little bit tired over the next week. I'm going to be busy by the end of this week, but Jason's going to be busy over the next little bit as he does some further distances while I stay home.
Sounds like a good time, though. I like getting out there, meeting everybody. There's viewers of the show that show up, new people that don't even know about the show, but they want to see a documentary, very familiar with the Sean Hartman story. And Mir was a nice time. I had a good time on Monday night.
Yeah, it was. And I always like the way Jason starts off the shows with how many of you have heard of Sean Hartman and Dan Hartman, and it's a good indicator to find out when you don't see hands raised, like, okay, you're in for a very rude, sad awakening, unfortunately. So, but it is good to know that there are new ears and eyes coming across his experience, and then possibly sharing it out as well.
Yeah, we don't want this to just be forgotten in time.
Right.
The lawsuits are going. It's going to be an interesting couple of years surrounding that. The U.S. is picking up the mantle a little bit, trying to open that door for lawsuits as well. And let's not forget what happened here. We have a lost young one, and there's many more. There's 3 in the movie or documentary.
Yeah, exactly. 3, and many faces that appear care of a particular group. You can get the name that share other vaccine injured people thanks to shot.
Yes, React 19 is a group you're talking about that it's a bit of a community of injured who get together, and Dean reached out and said, hey, can we get a couple pictures of some vax injured? And he received dozens and dozens and dozens of them.
Yeah, so it was great not really great. It was sad to see so many faces, because with each face there's obviously a family member that's associated, and the ripple effect goes on.
Yeah. And so if you haven't checked it out yet, we are going to Medicine Hat, Calgary, Edmonton. Go to supportsean.ca. We're working on Red Deer and Lethbridge. Maybe today can start posting that. So we'll get back to you on all of that. And then if there's a location that we haven't gone to or not planning to go to and you want us to come to, go to supportsean.ca and fill in the request a screening page. It's just your email, phone, name. No, I think it's just your email and name, and the location that's near you, large town or city around you. And we'll do our very best. We have seen all these requests coming in from BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. We're working on that as well. And the latest one that came in was New South Wales. So I don't know. You want to head to Australia to bring some merch down there?
I don't know, man. I've always wanted to go to Australia, but they weren't very anti-COVID friendly. So that's something to be aware of. There are certain countries. I shouldn't say certain. There's one country in particular on this planet that I will refuse to go to.
Iran?
No, ironically enough, no. Iceland. I don't plan to ever travel there. And so there are certain ones that I'm like, I don't agree with your politics or the way you've treated your people in the past. So I'm not really sure if I want to go there.
So Iceland has done something, I know what it is, very horrible. It's so horrible that you would actually go to Iran before there.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm an Arab. I'm Lebanese. So at the end of the day, I would love to go to anywhere in the Middle East because there's so much history, and my culture is there. But yeah, no, I would pick Iran over Iceland any day.
Maybe you should tell people why.
Yeah. So Iceland has one of the highest, if not the highest in the world, abortion rates for a diagnosis with Down syndrome. They have practically 100% of abortions for any pregnancy that's been diagnosed. And I just can't support that because, for those of you who know, our youngest, Jacob, has Down syndrome, and he's perfect in every way. In fact, he's so perfect, he has an extra chromosome. Like, that's how great he is. And so I can't support a country where that's their attitude. So
you can cover up the women and do some bad things, but do not harm the children.
Yeah. And Down syndrome is not a death sentence. It's the medical professions that have convinced parents, mothers that is the case. And so I can't support a nation like that.
Yeah, we went through that process of finding out and then being kind of led into the direction of ending Jacob, and that was in Ontario. And it was not a very nice process. They don't encourage. They certainly encourage you to end it. There's no support or encouragement to go ahead and have your young baby. And I'm really glad that we kind of fought against that. We went to the church, had a conversation with the pastor.
Priest.
There you go.
A Catholic priest.
Yeah. It was before we made our change to Christianity. But had a conversation with a priest and made the right decision by far.
For sure. Like, it was just doom and gloom. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. It was going to be a stone around our neck and his neck, and it's going to be awful. And for those of you who know Jacob, he is just the absolute opposite of awful. My goodness. And no, he's wonderful. He's great. And one of the best decisions we've made in our life together. Yeah, I don't support.
Yeah, having the boys and then switching to honey instead of turmeric all the time. Turmeric. Your best decisions ever right there. And then me. I come after that.
The totem pole just keeps getting longer and longer.
Yeah, so that was smelly stuff. But now you're fine. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah, but there's honey's not bad if you're sick, but it's high in fat. So it's not something that should be every day.
Good fat, though.
So while you're away, I have the original witch's brew of the turmeric powder. But yeah, while you're around, I use the honey.
It's also a pesticide too. There's no pests around here at all when you have that out. It's fantastic. Actually.
Yeah, put DE. Don't put DE. Good. Put DE in your witch's brew as well. Yeah.
And there's a honey war going on. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Corey Morgan versus Mike from Freedom Honey. Corey Morgan is like, yeah, my little girls are going to take care of Freedom Honey this year, and there's a little back and forth there. Now you haven't had Freedom Honey yet. We got to get some in you, so you can. Give us an opinion.
The wait list for me to use honey just keeps growing and growing. I have an abundant, thank you everyone who shares and sends me some and gives me, it's wonderful. I have an abundance of honey to go through. So right now I am doing I can't remember the name, but GB, thank you very much. You sent me a selection of honey, and the ones I'm using right now is the honey infused with turmeric and gin.
My honey's a honey. Yeah. You're the honey lady now. Nice. All right. So a little update. So we made some decisions around some of the critters around here.
Yes. So
this is the Martin update.
Yeah, this is the Martin update. So did we not share the pig conversation?
We just had it yesterday.
Yeah, no. So while I was watching my friend's farm where we have the pigs, and one of them is the big Yorkshire, the giant pink pig, as beautiful as she is, I just see her and I move and I just see a pig on a spit. She's very large. And to have a boar like that, or even more than one, is going to be difficult for the type of setup that BT and I both have. So we're having the conversations to go for smaller. So either keep Wilbur, who's a Cooney Coon, and breed him with another Cooney Coon, or breed him with a smaller breed, which we're looking at some right now, or start afresh and get that breed. We're still discussing that, but Penny, our beautiful pink pig, will be probably one of the first ones we butcher.
Yum.
Yeah.
And I'll make bacon out of her.
Exactly. And homemade bacon as well, because we've done that before. And yeah, folks, the bacon you get from most of you know this, but the bacon you get from the supermarket is not really what bacon is meant to look and feel and taste like. And we've made our homemade bacon before, and it's first one was salty, bit of a twang when you ate it, but
we just didn't rinse it enough. That's all.
But the second batch was great, and so we're looking forward to doing that again. And we ourselves were set up. We're probably going to go more into poultry, so I'll get the meat birds, maybe some turkeys, and then maybe look at something else as well. Oh yeah, maybe some sheep. Maybe some sheep. We'll
I
look
think
into it.
highly some sheep, because it keeps the lawn down. We can eat them. They're easy. I think there would be a high likelihood that we're going to end up with some sheep, the
Yeah.
little lambs.
Yeah,
And I was old when I learned that sheep and lamb are the same thing.
you were too old. You were too old when you discovered sheep and lamb were the same.
It's just different ages. I guess calves and calves and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, she goes, no, lamb is sheep, and so is mutton. I'm like, oh.
Mutton dresses lamb for us older ladies. Don't be mutton dresses lamb.
We'll eat mutton. No problem.
Yeah, just slow cook it.
Sure. Why not? Why not? We get the meat. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So we'll get some more critters this year, because there's going to be less touring for you. And then we also have a nice little arrangement with our neighbor to come help out when we're away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some more of this tours done. The independence conversation going to continue at the end of the month.
It's going to continue till October.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the whole getting ready for the referendum, the vote itself is going to continue as well. At least conversations around it, speeches, commentary, news. I'm using those words specifically because those are the rules of the elections Alberta, in order to be exempt from having to do a financial reporting, because as long as you're commentary, news, doing speeches, it's exempt. Yeah. If you're pushing aside, saying you must do this, you have to do this, then you start becoming a proponent of it, or you can also be against it. And that becomes advertising. That becomes where you need to start recording everything. So we are very careful on how we do our events, because we have personal opinions, which we're allowed to have. But we're out there providing both sides, having conversations and debates.
Yep. No, and as you should, and having an opinion, you're all entitled to it, and do something with it. And that's where you can sign, not sign. And then when the time comes, we'll say yay or nay. But Alberta, please have your say. Speak up, stand up.
Stand up. A little bit of rise up, a little bit of Hamilton for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the news. We're running a little bit behind on that, and we got lots to get into. And I see one of our guests is here hanging out. That's cool. But we'll go ahead and get back into this. All right, so Vincent Gersey, Donald Best, and others working at the Gruce Justice Project, which is no audio. They're doing a great job as well, putting a documentary together about Detective Helen Gruce, and I'm looking forward to that. It should be coming out this year. I know they're putting a lot of effort into it, and this is what I like to see. We're all starting to do this kind of thing, where we're putting together higher productions, having conversations, just like The Shot, and there's a couple others out there. But the Detective Helen Gruce story is going to come out. Oh, look at that. No, I'm just looking at myself here. That's unfortunate for me and the rest of you. There we go. So, yeah, thanks very much. It's a slow start today, folks. But there we go. Detective Helen Gruce story. Check it out. Vincent Gersey, Donald Best, and the Gruce Project. So grucejusticeproject.org. If you can donate and support, that'd be wonderful. They are doing a lot of work. They got some great interviews with Buckley and Sheba Vandenberg and Detective Gruce herself and others. So go check it out. I even think Vincent Gersey's in there as well. So I'm looking forward to that, because I do think we need to step up our game. And we've moved from yelling in a truck with swears to doing productions now, which are a lot easier for people to sit down and watch. Full audience can watch that and get the information that's necessary, because she's going through persecution still. I threw a poll out there: which Canadian Federalist has helped the Alberta independence movement the most with their anti-Alberta rhetoric and actions? The options were Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Thomas Sakic, and Jason Kenney. It was a photo finish between Jason Kenney and Mark Carney. To be that close to Mark Carney in this particular poll for Jason Kenney, it's like, ouch, man. Like, you may want to revisit, stay neutral maybe, but your attacks on Alberta and Albertans who are looking for a democratic vote, legal vote is noticed. Yeah. People are noticing for sure. A lot of support for Thomas Sakic as well. Very little for Pierre. I think that's because Alberta's strong conservatives, and they kind of want to give him a bit of a pass. But I think he's actually up there with all four of them. If this was a four-way race, I wouldn't have been surprised, because they all are contributing to the anti-Alberta rhetoric in their way. Pierre, by not actually signing up for Alberta, said his entire
they don't even
all
talk
the MPs,
about it.
MPs don't even bring it up. So the dismissiveness of it, I think, is this as a great opposition talking point to say, look, you're looking at breaking up Canada if you don't take the West seriously and push harder on that. And if he did that, I think there'd be a lot less people that are eager to leave. But he's not. So
nope, he's anyway.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
But the results were Carney, but just by a hair over Kenny. I may rerun that poll, just those two, and see if there's a more support for Carney or King on that one. Pay attention, Canada, because this is coming out of BC. So the government is trying to bury this one. Canada has signed an agreement with the Musqueam.
I'm not going to be disrespectful. Yes,
I'm not being disrespectful.
No, you are. But I cannot.
So the First Nations in BC that own Vancouver.
Yeah.
So there's an agreement in place. Jason Eby said that he didn't know anything about this. Premier, did I say Jason Eby? Yeah, Premier Eby said he didn't know anything about this, but it turns out he was at the signing ceremony. So either he is going to ceremonies, have no idea what he's signing, which is possible. He completely forgot, unlikely, or he's lying, most likely. He's going to be one of those three options. Yeah. But pay attention, Canada, especially Quebec, that has unceded land. This is exactly what UNDRIP is meant to do. Alberta independence is a way to ensure that the Supreme Court of Canada cannot declare our ceded land voided. That would be the process. If you take a close look at UNDRIP, it's all land thereafter, all land, not just the unceded land. They're very clear on that. So the process in Canada would have to be first, the unceded land is recognized and handed over. And then the ceded land would be the next step. And that would happen through the Supreme Court of Canada, who would declare it all void at some point. That can happen. Right now, it's still ceded land here in Alberta. The Treaty 6, 5, 8, I think a little bit of 10 is there. But in either case, currently, we're on ceded land. But a Supreme Court decision could change that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to ensure that that's just what's happening in Vancouver, in BC, doesn't happen in Alberta, is to consider your option of independence and would renegotiate, have new deals, possibly even get rid of the treaties with the consent of First Nations as they determine that self-determination is their future and they want one rule of law and be treated completely equal. I think that'd be great, Alberta, as everybody's the same. But that will be a decision made by First Nations as negotiations for a free Republic of Alberta would have to happen through both the Clarity Act and through a constitutional convention here in Alberta, if those votes come in. We'll pay attention to that one. Thank you very much to Dr. Shoemaker. He's such an awesome guy. I sent out this post reminding everybody that doctors have the Hartmans in their mind and support. So thank you very much for Chris. Get to call him Chris now. But Dr. Shoemaker for all this hard work, and also to Dr. Mary O'Connor, who is supporting the Hartmans on this journey of dance as well.
Yeah, great.
Appreciate that. Rob Schneider, he's making a post here. These broad strokes, and this is what's embarrassing about Canada, is internationally we're broad stroked. So he's like, I'm not sure if Canadian government will allow me back in the country now that I've spoken out about the most basic human biology. Only biological men are men. Only biological men are men, and only biological women are women. He's got a typo there. Hair, makeup, and clothes doesn't make you make a dude a chick unless the makeup comes and there's more. But absolutely, Rob, you'd be welcome in Alberta. Okay? You certainly won't be as welcome in BC, but the Human Rights Commission, John Cleese knows this as well. But yeah, you'd be welcome in Alberta. So Alberta will have you come anytime. Okay, so we posted this one. Parkland County, let's help identify these men as harassing canvassers can result in a $25,000 fine from Elections Alberta. If you know who these men are, DM me or send the information to Stay Free Alberta. This needs to stop. This is a legal democratic process, and this is from one of our friends, Tina, who did a pop-up in Mink Lake in Parkland County, and then these two gentlemen showed up to harass her hubby, talk them some sense into them. But it looks like the guy on the right is from BC, going by his elbows up hat and his BC sweatshirt. And great job on a lot of people who think they identify the guy on the left. I'm not going to release any names. But you can send messages to Stay Free Alberta. Stay Free Alberta has the videos as well. And this kind of thing needs to stop. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to have your opinion. You're not allowed to harass. and that's actually in the law. So get ready for your vote. Go ahead and do some town halls, but going to the pop-ups to intimidate canvassers, a legal canvasser, is actually against the law. It can get yourself into quite a bit of trouble, and if you take this any further, there will be some criminal charges, not just fines. So this behavior hopefully will stop. This is why we're raising attention to it. It's because we think it needs to stop. Nobody should be afraid to go and get out there to collect signatures. All right, another one. We got another one. Thank you for speaking up. Many are with you. Sherry Sterling. I am Treaty 8 as well and want independence. I was not asked my view or my band, and my band does not speak for me. We're seeing messages like this all over the place now. So thank goodness people are speaking up, and we saw this at signing events, not us personally, but it's been reported that the Treaty Indians and First Nations are signing the petition, even when some of their brothers and sisters are protesting. So we're seeing this happen. And why not? Self-determination, rule of law, true freedom. You're no longer under an Indian Act. You can own property, you can pass it on, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's about time that the modern society recognizes everybody equally. We're well past the two-tiered second-class citizen system. This needs to be dismantled. Even without independence, this should be dismantled, but independence in Alberta is going to be the first template, I think, for this to happen here in Canada. All right, we got another 8 minutes to go. Oh, Canada, you're well on your way to the 100,000th made, I think, as we spoke to Pastor Jeff on Monday. It's sometime in June or July at the current rate. It's very, very sad. Very, very sad. The churches warned about this when it was starting to come in and said, look, it's going to be a slippery slope. They're going to expand it to a whole bunch of things. And people are like, no, just terminal and high pain. And then that's the only time we'll use it. Just like abortion will be rare, safe, and legal. Not rare. It's not rare at all. This is how they do it. They open that door a little bit, they use your compassion, pull on those strings, get people to get behind it. And then before you know it, mature minors, mentally ill is really, really disturbing because it's not their choice. It's their caregiver's choice. Dementia's on that list, which is not a terminally, you're not in pain. It's just you become dependent for someone else, and they're the one making that choice. This is where we're in really, really bad territory. We should never have opened this door.
The slope is slippery.
Very slippery. They're just throwing a bunch of soap on there to make it very slippery. So I think we need to close it. Alberta has talked about limiting it. I think it needs to be banned. And it can be banned on a provincial level. It is a provincial decision. Eventually, a nation, we will not have that kind of thing. All right, Billboard Chris, thank you very much for another good post here, because these are so annoying. So there's a post here for a position, professor of philosophy at SFU, must identify as Black. So if you read the post, the job posting, this opportunity is limited to applicants who self-identify as Black, pursuant to Section 42, Sub 3 of the British Columbia Human Rights Code. The university received approval from the British Columbia Human Rights Commissioner to limit recruitments and hiring for various faculty positions to those who self-identify as Black. Okay, so here's how they're doing it. Instead of just saying Black, they're saying self-identify, because in the Human Rights Code, self-identify is recognized. You're allowed to self-identify as male, self-identify as female, self-identify as a feline. And now they're doing it for race as the loophole to get around the discrimination that's covered by the Charter. So they're saying, no, we're not discriminating you by race. You're self-identifying. So this is the loophole they're using at the human rights level to get around the Charter. I really hope this turns into some sort of lawsuit and gets reversed. But someone please explain to me how someone can self-identify as Black. Like, seriously, that's not possible. Either you are or you're not. How do you self-identify as pregnant? Like, either you are or you're not. So this is really, really getting weird. And there's a few of the examples of this. So self-identify as, fill in the blank. Just call this what it is. This is racism. Full-on racism. It's horrible. We actually have protections in Canada for this, but yet they're blatantly in BC and other places thrown in your face that they don't care about.
And can you imagine if anyone other than someone who is Black self-identifying as Black? Like
Trudeau did. Twice.
Numerous times that we know of.
Yeah. But you couldn't say self-identify as white.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that. Okay. And I'd even be annoyed with that. Like, we got to stop doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Stop being racist, Canada, especially BC and the Human Rights Commission.
Mhm.
They just destroyed the whole name of their commission. It's not human rights at all.
Correct.
They self-identify as a human rights commission. As we continue here, sudden and unexpected has posted a letter that says from Pfizer, full letter from Pfizer, acknowledging my injuries and disabilities. They blame Health Canada. If you go through this, this is what Pfizer's position is right now. This was a Dan Hartman defense as well that Pfizer filed. They're not even hiding the fact that it's not safe and effective. They're not even saying, yeah, you won't be injured or dead. They did the research that came out that way. Bless me. Because that's exactly the truth. They're actually telling the truth here, Pfizer. They're saying, yeah, no, we made a product that can kill and injure, but your country and your health authority has approved it and allowed it, so liability shifts to them.
And remember, they have no duty of care over you, Canada.
Correct. So that's what we say here. Yeah. Very similar response to Dan Hartman's lawsuit. Pfizer is blaming Health Canada for allowing the vax, and the Ontario court said Health Canada did not have a duty of care for Canadians, even if injured or dead. We cover this in our documentary, Visit Support Sean for screenings near you. This is definitely part of it, including the U.S. side, where the Supreme Court there gave immunity to vaccine manufacturers, and how Canada does have the ability to go ahead and sue. If you're in Canada, you do have the ability to sue. This is why this documentary and the lawsuit is so important. So go ahead and share that out. But yeah, I'm not surprised.
Both of them are just doing this.
Well, they're more pointing at each other, right?
Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's going on here. So I like what's going on right now because the truth is coming out. Pfizer's saying, yeah, no, it's not safe and effective. People will be injured and die.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that you guys are telling at least that bunch of the truth.
Yeah.
Let's continue on this lawsuit and get this out there. Thank you very much to Pastor Tim Stevens and Pastor Jeff Gooderham, who's our pastor at our church, for joining us Monday to have quite the conversation. We're continuing that conversation today with Pastor Artur Pawlowski and Pastor Nathan. Go ahead.
Oh, Zekveld.
Zekveld. We'll get there.
When he appears, we'll ask him.
Yeah, that's gonna be the first question there, Pastor Nathan.
Pastor Nathan.
We'll get there. Okay, so brother. Why is this not being invested in Canada? So $100 billion of Canadian pension funds invested in India, not to be, not talking about, invested.
Yeah.
So I guess Canada has no projects like pipelines or anything else that we can invest in that will help Canadians directly. So we have to go find other places to put the pension fund money. I want people to fully understand this is why Alberta should have their own pension plan, whether through independence or other means. You don't want these kind of decisions being made. I guarantee you $100 billion in Canada for hospitals, schools, road, infrastructure, pipelines, and other projects would go a long way to showing a return, an actual return, and assisting Canadians.
And actually doing something for Canada.
So when the government of Canada says we don't have anything to give to the vets and we can't take care of our elderly, but yet there's $100 billion being sent to India. Interesting. So, brother, why is this not being invested in Canada? You guys responded quite well to that one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I know who this is. Set up a little signing location, a little pop-up location near Calgary on Trans-Canada Highway. Was rolling in the signatures. Thank you very much for doing that work. And if you ever see like a vehicle with a bunch of Alberta flags, chances are that's a pop-up. So you can just pull in and say hi and put your signature there.
Yep.
Hello to Mir. That was a good showing. We had a good time. And Liz Churchill, thank you very much for the post, including Sean and the documentary in that post. Because Sean Hartman died 1 month after his Pfizer vaccination. And what's weird is there's a community notes on this, which actually says all of these are true. Sean, Carrie, Kayla, Lindsay, Cody, except the 50 million people injured and dead is not supported. So they're like, yeah, all this stuff happened. These people are dead and injured.
Don't worry, we'll get that pictures eventually. And we'll share those out.
Yeah. So thank you very much for Liz for that as well. And we're getting close to bringing on our guests. And then let me just double check this because Sometimes Pastor Art sends a message. Nope, not yet.
Nope.
Okay, good. So breaking Grand Prairie trans. You gotta stop using those words. Western Standards, no such thing as transgender. Parent gets 5 years for stabbing his children. So, a reminder that Chris Carbert got 6.5 years for having his hunting rifles in his hunting trailer near the Goose protest. He never showed them, hurt anyone, didn't threaten a soul, and was sleeping in his trailer when arrested. But stabbing your children only gets you 5 years.
Terrible.
Everything about that's terrible. Everything
Yep.
about that is terrible. I'm so frustrated. And then there's hey, we're not going to be in today, so let's go ahead and get ourselves ready for our guests because they're both with us today. So we're going to continue the conversation about the churches stepping up, pastors stepping up. The strong ones are doing it, which is great. And of course, that includes Pastor Artur Pawlowski. Nobody's been fined or persecuted more than him at this stage. I think he's in the $1,000 ticket range or something like that. But we'll bring him on. And also a new pastor that I met in Grand Prairie, recommended by Lathan Gray to have a conversation on. Let's go ahead and get that going. Good morning, Pastor Nathan. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's pronounced Zekveld.
Zekveld. You were right. All of them right. Just give me that little nod. You was right. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. And how are you?
Good as well. Thanks for that post online. Let's bring in the famous, infamous, the loud Artur Pawlowski. Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're good. How are you?
Good. Still fighting, still in the courts, still plowing, and still putting the seeds of freedom left and right.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Glad to see that you're not in a detention center today or shifting through a bunch of tickets, but that day may still come. We had Pastor Tim Stevens on Monday, and that was my first time talking to him. So, yeah, they were going after pastors all over the place, Pastor Pawlowski.
Yeah. I mean, you have to understand the history and all the whys, right? If you know why, then it's easy for the people to understand what's really going on. Historically speaking, the first freedom that is under attack, or put it this way, the first freedom that goes is the freedom of religion. Why? Because tyrants hate competition. They believe that they are the modern day pharaohs. They believe that they are gods in their own eyes. So whatever they say goes. And I'll give you a few examples from past few years when the health, a chief, health whatever, said something, automatically it became a law. When some of those people made a suggestion, it became automatically law. When Fauci was talking to the media, automatically whatever he said, it became a law, because they truly believe that they are the modern day pharaohs. So whatever they say, it's like the words of God. And then you've got pastors, and I'm not talking about the fake ones. I'm not talking about the ones that work with the globalist government. Nazi Germany is a perfect example, when most of the churches fall in line, either agreeing with Hitler or just refusing to say or do anything against that tyranny. Under communism, socialism that I grew up under was the same thing. The church, in a big part, was told, be quiet, shut up, and do whatever you want to do in your churches. Just do not talk about things that are actually irrelevant. So when the real deal shows up, and what is the real deal? The real deal actually believes the Bible. It's not selectively picking and choosing what suits their agenda or, denominational aspects of their faith, whatever works for them. The real deal takes the Bible from the very beginning to the very end. It is written. This is what God says, and cultures, people, societies, empires come and go, but the word of God stands forever. When those types of individuals show up on a scene, they automatically become a threat to the tyrannical system. So in other words, you've got clashing of the spirits. You've got the spirit of evil, and then you've got God and his servants. When you look at history, when you look at the Bible, who was in hot waters all the time? It was the people that actually believed God and obeyed God, because it's not enough just to believe. You have to act on your belief. A perfect example is Daniel. Daniel was told by their health, chief officers, you cannot pray. Why? Because we say so. You cannot pray, and if you do, you will end up dead. What Daniel is doing? Well, he had two choices. He could bow before the modern day, at that time, Carneys or Trudeau's or Obama's or Clinton's or whatever the devil, Kenny Smith or Rob, Ford, and say, well, I can still pray in silence. I can still pray behind my closed doors. But he doesn't do that. He does what God commanded him to do, which is openly show his faith. And he goes and he does what he has always been doing. And he opens the windows for all to see that he's refusing. He's not going to bow before the wishes of Satan. So for that, he ends up in a lion's den. Then you've got Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The whole world, it says, all the nations did bow before the golden image. I called it, during the crazy 5 years, the golden muzzle. And the nations did bow before the golden muzzle, and they worshipped it, right? Except those three men. They were high-ranking officers within the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. They were his ministers. So they were very highly visible people with authority and power. And that's what I was expecting from our government officials, especially here in Alberta. I was expecting them to do the right thing and defend the people against this globalistic attack on all of us. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refuses to bow. And for that, you see, here's the thing. When all the nations, when all the people fall in line and they bow, and then you've got few people that stand up, well, you can see them very clearly. And that's exactly what happened to me. I received over 360 citations worth millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. I paid lawyers millions of dollars already. I'm still in court fighting for our freedoms, for our rights. And I was arrested more times than my lawyers even remember. I mean, I was detained every 5 minutes, in quote. They invaded our church multiple times, not just one time when you saw the Get Out Nazi video. They came multiple times. They attacked, harassed, intimidated, ticketed, came to my home. I was arrested outside of my house. I was arrested on the highway multiple times. I was arrested left and right for nothing. But the question again is, why? Because liars, wicked people, evil people are afraid of God, because God is God of checks and balances. God is God of accountability. When you bring accountability, in other words, if you bring the light into the darkness freaks out. And that's exactly what we observe every single time you've got tyranny rising up. So the topic today is independence, but there is no independence without the one that can bring that freedom. Because what's independence? Independence is freedom. Freedom to be able to decide for yourself, your own fate. We don't have freedom in Canada. Canada has fallen. Justice system has fallen. Educational system is not educating, is indoctrinating. Healthcare system, it's a bloody bunch of murderers that are wiping white Canadians. Over 100,000 about 100,000 white Canadians have been slaughtered through the assisted suicide. You've got abortion. You've got all those things. It's a plan of replacement. They are replacing good people with people that hate freedom, independence, and democracy. So it's a very interesting season that we find ourselves in if it comes to history, because whatever the people are willing to do, whatever they're going to do, it's going to determine their future and the future of their children. And when I look at the church in Canada specifically, church has fallen. Church bowed before the wishes of the modern day Nebuchadnezzars as a whole. I'm not talking about, here and there. I mean, there was a handful of us that were willing to stand publicly. Yeah, there were a few others that were doing kind of under the radar, flying under the radar, hiding here and there, not willing to make a splash. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they chose to make a splash. Daniel, he chose to make a splash. Others, they chose to be visible. Why? Because it's so important for the people to see that they are still people in a land that actually believe. You cannot believe hidden, hiding. The city, has to be on a hill. I mean, Jesus specifically told us if the salt loses its saltiness, it will be what? It will be trampled by men. It will be rendered useless. In other words, the church in Canada has become useless. Yeah, you can give your fancy sermons, you can do your little, projects, but in the end of the day, you failed as a whole. Church in Canada failed because the church was responsible to stand up against tyranny, and they didn't do it. So, I mean, I can talk for hours about the biblical aspect of independence and freedom, but I'll just say it this, and then I will give it to my colleague, the floor, that Jesus Christ, I have been widely accused, Jason, as you know, when I was marching with the hurting Canadians, because I marched with everyone that wanted to march for freedom, I marched with. And there were some sketchy characters. There were some drunkards, and there were homosexuals marching. There were, atheists, people, with the beer, with the joint marching. And somehow they always wanted to march next to me for the picture. So I was widely criticized for marching with, questionable characters. But I always responded to them, listen, we're fighting for freedom for the people to choose God, but also freedom for the people to say no to God. God has given us the freedom to choose. And I want you to know that Jesus Christ was and still is the biggest freedom fighter that ever lived. He was born for freedom. He lived for freedom. He set the captives free. He died for our freedom, and he rose from the grave for our freedom. So now everyone around the world can choose him if you want to. You don't have to. And that's the beauty about Christianity. We're not Sharia law type of, religion, because religion is dead in the end. It's a set of different men's laws. We are following Jesus Christ that has given people the ability to say yes to him or no to him. That's why when you have a nation, a region that is ruled by real Christians, freedom flourishes and people have that independence. And that's what atheists do not understand. They think that by destroying Christianity and replacing Christianity with Sharia law, with Muslims or with Hindus or homosexuals or transgender, they're going to have freedom. There is no freedom. Listen, there is no freedom outside of Christ. There's just another form of slavery. So people have to understand that the best leaders in history, the best ever, are the ones that believe in Jesus Christ, because when you're a real deal, you will allow people to choose their own destiny, to choose their own path. That's why I am not involved right now in the independence movement. As you know, I was a leader of the Independence Party, because the party was torpedoed by people that hate God, people that don't want Christianity, people that don't want God at the center of this fight. And quite frankly, I'm going to tell you something. I'm absolutely not interested in replacing one tyrant with another form of tyranny. I'm not interested in spending my money and my time, effort, building something that I already know it's going to crumble. Because without God, we don't stand a chance. First of all, the independence movement stands no chance against the globalists. They're just too powerful, too strong. They have, it seems, they have unlimited resources. They got the guns, they got the jail,
Right.
they got the handcuffs. So the only solution to our problem in Alberta and in Canada as a whole is Canada must bring God of independence, God of freedom back to Canada, back to Alberta. Alberta is a very unique province within the Confederation because we had for over 40 years two pastors that were ruling Alberta, and Alberta was a place of freedom and later a place of prosperity, because that notion of freedom, independence, being strong in your faith, the true north, strong and free, if you will, knowing and understanding our history, that Canada was blessed because Canada, or Canadians, the founding fathers, whatever you want to call it, those pilgrims that came those hundreds of years ago, they came for freedom, and they invited God of freedom to be the ruler, if you will, over Canada. If you know your history, I teach history, so in
Let's
1600.
get Pastor Nathan on, okay?
Yeah. Mhm.
Pastor Artur, you're right, because
Yeah.
we can go for hours on this. And now that we're getting to the history, I want to kind of just get us back on to what we're talking about here today, which is the church is working and standing up. Like you mentioned, some of them were quiet. They were praying behind closed doors. That's not going to help. We need people to stand up like yourself as well. And Pastor Nathan, as we continue this conversation, first introduce yourself. And I'm sure you agree with basically everything Pastor Pawlowski said right there. But what are your thoughts about why are the churches not standing up, and how do we do that? How do we get them to be more like Pawlowski and less like, everybody else?
Yeah, so I'm Nathan Zekveld. I'm pastoring a church up here in the city of Grand Prairie. I've been working in Alberta for 3 years now. I think I came out here in July of 2022. I actually started my ministry off on the East Coast right at the dead of lockdowns. And I did a lot of writing and talking about lockdowns publicly in the church. Not many churches on the East Coast opened up, which eventually led me out to Alberta, and has me in a church that strongly encourages me to be open with my faith and to testify in the public square to the crown rights of King Jesus. So yeah, my work out here in Grand Prairie, I've been out here for 3.5 years. I'm pastoring a church that meets right in the city. So just reflecting specifically on this topic of the church and why the church has not spoken up. I think there's been a lot of ignorance in the church in Canada over the course of the last, and a growing ignorance, I would say, over the course of the last 25 to 50 years. I'm only 33 years old, so I've gotten to see the decline, but I came after the decline started, I think. I grew up in Toronto. So Toronto, of course, has been a very pagan city for a long, long time. I grew up probably as one of maybe 5 Christians on the entire street. There's been lots of pagan religions in Toronto for a long time. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to preach the gospel and share the gospel with the lost. But we also need to start educating the church again. And we need to start teaching Christians basically what our duty is in the political realm and our duty is in the political sphere. And that happens not just by saying words, but as Artur Pawlowski, Pastor Pawlowski has pointed out, you need to actually show courage. You need to actually get out and do something. So when it came to the lockdowns, I'd been watching this decline in Canada for quite some time. And when you think about it, they were shutting us out of worship. And if there's one point where we should be fighting, is that central command to gather together and to worship the Lord. If you lose worship, you've lost everything. So I've seen Christians. I've been part of the protest against the moral decline in this nation, against the legalization of same-sex marriage, against abortion, against all these things that have crumbled the moral foundations of our nation. But when they said you're no longer able to worship, that should have been the time where we were willing and ready to go out and say, you know what, we're Christians. We have to obey God and not men. This is our Lord Jesus Christ, and you're commanding us to cease our worship of him. And so I would say that what happened in the last 5 years struck very deeply at the heart of Christianity and the heart of our Christian faith. And a lot of Christians folded, I think partly due to ignorance of Christian truth, but also to the lack of courage among the preachers, among the leaders of the church. And I truly believe, and part of the reasons why I've done so much public writing over the course of the last 5 to 10 years is I believe that we need to restore that mindset in the Christian church and call people to courage. I think it was Billy Graham who said that when a good man takes a stand, the spines of others are stiffened, and I think people need to see in their pastors and in their leaders that ability to stand up and speak the truth no matter what the cost. I'm preaching through the book of Acts right now, and that's one of the central themes of Acts is truthful witness to the eternal reign of Jesus Christ by the power of the Holy Spirit. And no matter what happens, they're committed to testifying to the truth, because we cannot but speak of what we've seen and heard. We have to let people know. And if the government tells us to cease and desist, they're basically telling us to be lying witnesses, and we can't lie.
Okay, I like how you did that, because we definitely need to see the courage come back. And Pastor Artur, one of the things I want to kind of focus on right now with you is, well, we're seeing the moral decline of society. That's obvious, especially when you're in Toronto, like when Pastor Nathan is there. But we're also now seeing, or not even just now, maybe it's going to happen all along, but it's very clear now, there's a direct attack on the church itself, the Christianity. So the churches are being burnt down. Nobody in the government's really stopping it, fighting it, even condoning it, or they're not condoning it. There's an attack via Bill C9, where hate speech, the Bible has now been removed from that as an exception. The charity status of churches as well. There's a direct attack by the state on the churches to shut, and then lock them down during COVID, just as Nathan was highlighting, you were highlighting. So what else is it going to take for strong men with a spine to stand up for others? Because not only is there a moral decline, but there's a direct attack on the church as well.
Well, again, going back to history, hardship. I mean, I don't see any other way coming out of this pickle, except when people are hurting, they're more inclined to look up for help. I mean, this is the problem that we have seen, and you're absolutely right, that the decline has been happening for the past 50 years slowly. What happened to the West, or to the Western church, is comfort. We have become so comfortable that we don't want to risk anything. And I'm going to say something that will sound like a heresy, for 99.999% of the churches here in Canada. I would welcome the charity status to be taken away from the churches, because the problem that we have with the charitable tax status is that we have become muzzled dogs on the leash. And now the pastors are terrified to preach the truth, because the government comes and says, if you preach this, if you oppose us ideologically, or if you talk about things that we view as political, I mean, abortion. I received a letter in 2008. So look how long this has been going on, that stated from CRA that abortion, divorce, and homosexuality is viewed by the Canadian government as talking about politics. So this is where we are today. You cannot talk about things that are relevant in today's society. And the pastors are facing two choices. If I'm going to talk the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, instead of entertaining people, juggling, becoming a, entertainer instead of a pastor, I'm going to lose charitable tax status. If I'm going to lose charitable tax status, people will stop giving. When people will stop giving, I'll be out of job. And this is what destroyed the church in the West. We literally sold Jesus for a silver coin once again, because we took the benefits, the trinkets, as more valuable than preaching the whole truth. And I would say this to you. Not only courage is lacking in our churches, but also we have become, in a way, like Judas Iscariot of today, evaluating their risk. Actually, in many mega churches, I used to work with them, they have lawyers and risk management team, and they will be evaluating if, let's say, March for Jesus, if this is too risky, or evangelism on the streets, if this is too risky, or feeding the poor. The risk management team is going to evaluate if this can hurt the church, instead of saying God commanded us. You see, there was no question in my heart when the lockdowns came, because I read the Bible. I know I'm one of those few weird pastors that actually do read the Bible, and I've read it many times, and it says very clearly, God lives in the worship of His people. Worship is like Pastor Nathan said, it's a given. It's we worship God. That's our essential thing, that we exist as a church to worship the living God. Do not forsake the gatherings of the saints. So when the government said to us, you cannot meet, what? Don't meet. If you don't want to meet, don't meet. We're going to meet. And I said to the team, now we're going to meet more than normally, because the government, the Satan says we cannot meet. When they told us you cannot sing, remember that they outlawed singing. Pastors were faced with a choice. Christians were faced with a choice. The government says, Satan says, you are not allowed to sing to your God. And I said to my worship team, I said, I want you to sing now double. And I live streamed it for the Satan to see it. That's how you tackle opposition. You don't hide unless they're killing us. I mean, we're not there yet, right? So, I'm not putting down the churches that cannot, but we were not there. What we were risking is a fine or jail. That's okay. That's fine. They were not chopping our heads off yet. And they might, because the church failed. And that's why I believe the second test is coming. The hardship is coming again, because the church as a whole failed. So when the government says you cannot sing, you were faced with a choice. Well, you say I cannot. God says I should. And He commands us to gather and go and do those things. So I'm going to believe God. When they outlawed Lord's Supper, I said, surely the pastors will stand up. Surely that the church is going to do the right thing. No, that was not the case. So what I did, I said to the team, not only we're meeting more, and we were meeting 7 times a week, I said, we are going to have a Lord's Supper every single time we meet. I live streamed the whole thing. And that's how I chose to fight this evil. Of course, I paid dearly for that. I was charged, as you guys know, with terrorism. I was convicted of terrorism by the Canadian crooked judge, Gordon Krinke. And I was, slandered by the mainstream propaganda in the political realm, and, spent time in jail and 2 years on house arrest. I mean, and I'm still in court. It's just a never ending story. However, I don't regret a thing. Because when you stand with God, you have already won. The enemy just doesn't know it yet. If that was the approach of the church and the pastors, this country would look completely different. But I think comfort. We have sold Jesus for comfort, entertainment. We just don't want to lose it. I was approached by someone just a few days ago that left the church, one of the bigger churches, because they were, instead of worshiping and preaching, they were watching playoffs, hockey. And that person was in a leadership position and went to the senior pastor, so like, what are we doing? We look like the word, we smell like the word, we dress like the word, we say the same things to the people like the words. There's no difference. And that's the problem. We have bought a lie, and Nathan is right. We have bought a lie that in order to win people for the good side, we have to become like the devil. And that's just not going to happen. You mentioned that you're teaching the book of Acts. Look, chapter 4, when they were arrested, they were told you cannot do certain things. You cannot preach this name and, all those, you cannot gather and you cannot do this. And they said, well, you be the judges whom we are to obey, God or you. And in chapter 5, they're more precise. And that's what I was expecting the church to say. We must There's no place for a debate. We must obey God rather than man. So we failed. We have forgotten the history. The pilgrims, when they came here, they nailed to the ground and they dedicated the North America, this ground, to the living God because they escaped persecution, they escaped famine, they came to America for a fresh start. And we have forgotten our history. So God is going to remind us our own history through difficulties, through hardships. I'll tell you what is going to happen. It's already begun. Economical collapse. People are going to lose their properties. We in Alberta, we're in the worst position. Don't believe the lies of the propaganda, especially coming from the political realm. We are in the worst position if it comes to defaulting on credit cards. Canadians, Albertans are losing houses left and right, foreclosures. They cannot afford it. Their second mortgages, third mortgages. They're selling their toys because it's hard economically. And this is just the beginning. My friends, this is just the beginning because God is going to allow the church to go through the second test. And I pray and I hope that the church will pass that test. So why the pastors and the churches are not involved in the independence movement or in the freedom fight, why they're not standing up? Because in their mind, they have simply too much to lose. That's the bottom line. In the end of the day, guys, it's all about silver. It's all about gold. It's all about the same thing that we have seen for thousands of years. And I love what Apostle said, silver and gold I do not have, but what I have, I'm going to give it to you. Stand up and walk, right? Be healed in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. We have forgotten that. We think that our entertainment centers and our unbelievable professional worship sessions are going to lure the world into the church. It's not happening. It's actually opposite because they have a lot better in their mind entertainment, with the joint, with the beer, with the ecstasy at the rave parties. We cannot compete with that. So what we need to do, we need to go back to the basics and we have to bring holiness and repentance and freedom. What is freedom? What is freedom? Freedom, there's no freedom in sin. There's no freedom in booze. There's no freedom in sex. There's no freedom in pornography. There's no freedom when you chop to pieces your own baby. There's no freedom when you change your sex. There's no freedom if a man dresses as a woman or a woman dresses as a man. There's no freedom in all of those things. The only freedom, the only independence, a real one, is with God. That's why we must go back to the foundation. Why Canada was so great. Why we were blessed. In the scripture, there is this passage that I really love. It says, when you possess the houses that you do not build and, the vineyards you have not planted, just, in other words, God says, when you take that blessing that I have for you, because God, is a good father of blessing. When you possess all of that I have promised to your forefathers, just do not forget about me. Canadians have forgotten who is the God of the blessings, who is God of freedom. So the solution is one, and it's very simple, actually. It will take your going to your knees, being humble, repent, turn away from your wicked ways, and invite the God of freedom, God of independence, back into our beloved nation. The moment that happens, we will start walking towards right. As you know, guys, I work in the United States. I have lots of friends over there. I go back and forth. I just came back from Washington, D.C. I was invited to represent Canada in Washington, D.C. And I just got back. And what I see in America, the United States of America, I see them moving towards right, slowly but surely. Their administration, the people, there's pockets of revival left and right. The youngsters are rising up. It's moving right. In Canada, I see opposite. I see Canadians going left, more left, more left. And I was heartbroken when the independence movement picked up after I was torpedoed, that they told me, we want you at the table, but not your God. Keep your faith separate. No, no, then I have nothing to do here. It's a useless, time. It's not going to work. You will replace one tyrant with another form of tyranny. Just exactly like I said, when you're going to replace Kenny with Smith, you're going to have a different form of tyrant. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right now in Alberta. We're still murdering children under the conservative government. We're still jobbing them, even though for over 2 years, the government knows that those jobs are destroying children and killing them, and they're still doing it. In malls in Calgary, you can get the job. Children can get the job, and they're being encouraged to do it. Look at the deficit. I said this forever, that the Conservative Party is no different than the Liberal and NDP. 9 billion, Jason? What they are doing with my money? I pay taxes. 50%, over 50% in taxes. I'm being wiped out with the rest of Canadians if it comes to taxes. What are you doing with our money? Stop it. Right? I mean, we can go on and on. But the point is this. There's no solution to our problems without Jesus, without God. And I know that people are going to scream and yell, we're going to take independence in our hands and we're going to have freedom. No, you will not. Mark my words, they will never allow you to win referendum. Write it down. Artur Pawlowski said, there will be no victory in the referendum because they will not allow it. Globalists will not allow Alberta to separate. It's not going to happen. Listen, it's not going to happen. They will not allow it. They will rather assassinate some of the key figures than to allow this to happen. What you need is someone stronger, someone more powerful than man. You need God. With God, I would agree. Yeah, we stand a chance. Because God can come in and he can fix our problems. He can protect us like he's protecting President Donald J. Trump. Yes, I get it. That we would be able to do it. Without God, it's never going to happen. They're going, even if they allow, let's go as far as saying, even if they will allow a referendum to go through, which they might, they're going to cheat on counting the votes, just like they did in Quebec. It's not going to pass. It's impossible without God, a stronger hand than the globalists. So what we need as a church to do is we got to go back to the basics. I agree with Nathan. We got to go back to doing what the book of Acts is actually teaching us how the church is supposed to look like. That's it, full stop. If we're Christians, then be Christians. Don't play this game of schizophrenia. I'm a holy on Sunday and I'm the devil on Monday. Christians should never have two hats. We have only one hat. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of being a Christian. I'm not ashamed of being a pastor. I'm not ashamed of preaching the gospel and saying Jesus is the solution. If you're ashamed, well, I'll say to you, you're not a Christian. You're a schizophrenic, you're flip-flopping politician. You're playing the game of political correctness, which always ends the same way.
Right. Great. Okay, so you touched on a lot of subjects that I wanted to get to, so I appreciate that, Pastor Arthur. And the reason why I'm bringing pastors on this week is for this exact reason, is because unless we actually live to the faith, family, freedom mantra, which is what a lot of independent people are saying, faith, family, and freedom. Unless we actually do the faith, there is no chance. There's no foundation. And if we're just going to replace one crooked system with another that isn't based on faith, then we're no better off. So this is kind of the goal here, Pastor Art, is to bring you and others on to remind Albertans about that. So Nathan, Pastor Nathan, sacraments. Okay, I saw online here, David Parker said, hey, don't forget about sacraments. Let's not forget about sacraments. Let's go ahead and touch on that. And then I also want to remind you, or let you both know, that there is a coalition of churches, Christian churches, coming together to do exactly what we're talking about here, which is to stand up and encourage other pastors to stand up. So I'm encouraged by that. But Pastor Nathan, sacraments, and then the coalition of churches.
Yeah, so I was happy that David threw that question out there. I would frame so in the context of our independence discussion, I would frame this topic of sacraments in the light of the fact that the church ought to be moved back into the center of the public square again. Over the course of the last 20 to 25 years, the church has been kind of pushed to the side. Pastors have allowed it to be pushed to the side. Pastors have self-censored themselves. and pastors have gone silent. So the church is the city of God that descends out of heaven. It descends among the kingdoms of men. And that church is shaped by sacraments. It's shaped by baptism and the Lord's Supper. So when Peter comes to the crowd on Acts 2 and he says, "Repent and be baptized, every one of you," that sign and seal of baptism is a sign that even though these people are still working with the nations around them and the kingdoms of the earth, that their ultimate and their highest allegiance is to King Jesus, because that's what repentance is. Repentance is a change of mind. It's a turning away from sin, and it's saying, my whole life is submitted to King Jesus. Baptism, of course, also forms the church in the midst of the world. So as we baptize the nations, as we baptize new believers and new Christians across Alberta, basically what we're doing is we're saying, yeah, our highest allegiance is to King Jesus, and this really is good for our province of Alberta. It's really good for the nation of Canada. So it forms and shapes and molds people into the image of Christ. And then, of course, the second sacrament of the church is the Lord's Supper. The Lord's Supper is feasting with Christ and feasting upon Christ. And this is where Christians, if Christians are committed to the church, if Christians are committed to living with God, this is where Christians receive a lot of their strength and spiritual nourishment in order to face this battle with evil. So these two sacraments, baptism and the Lord's Supper, shape the church, of course, along with the preaching of the gospel, the preaching of the word. This places the church very publicly and visibly back in the public square again. I think one of the reasons why so many churches shut down during lockdowns was because sacraments didn't really matter all that much anymore. People felt like they could listen to a preacher online. I think there's actually something very biblical about listening to a preacher in person, having somebody look you in the eye and share the gospel with you. But I think there was also an element where if you're not coming to the table together, if you're not participating in the bread and wine together, there's something very physical and tangible about participation at the Lord's table. And so there's just something very intimate about the Lord's Supper that encourages people to be in worship in person and fellowshipping with one another. Of course, the Lord's table becomes one of the central things within Christianity, or one of the central rites within Christianity, which actually changes a lot of the culture around us as well. I'm convinced that it's the Lord's table that led Christian families to start eating together. The Lord's table becomes the center of hospitality and feasting and fellowship, for example, in the early church in Corinth, because what happens in the Christian church is it presents a different way of living. Titus chapter 3 says, "In your former days you were hated by one another and hating one another, but in these latter days God appeared, regenerating us from our sins and washing us clean of our sins." And one of those central acts that shapes or reforms the world into a new community of love and peace and fellowship is that participation at the Lord's table.
Okay, so I'm glad you went there and talked about sacraments as well. And I do agree with you. Like, if you're not going to the church, you're not looking in the eyes, and you're not participating in worship, which is more than just the sermon, it's also being there and talking to your neighbors and shaking hands and
the fellowship
meeting.
of it.
In the fellowship, for sure. That was what I was looking for. Thank you very much. You don't really have much. Both gentlemen, please hold on, because we're now going to move to our private side, our supportive side, and continue this conversation. But what I really liked about what we pulled out and shared today was this is the only path forward. If we don't have Christ and we don't have Jesus helping on us in this independence thing, there is no such thing. Pastor Artur Pawlowski, you're correct. And it was a big mistake to ask you to put your faith aside. This is the only way we can make this happen. This is something that we talk about in our church a lot now, because look what's happening. Bill C-9. They're going to
Yeah.
come after you for hate speech. This entire episode could be determined to be hate speech just because we're talking about the word of God. So if we can't stand up to this now and do this now, it's going to be all over. It'll be all over. So hang on, gentlemen, as we say goodbye to the public side of things and we get into our supporter side, because there's definitely going to be more things I want to chat about, okay?
Yep.
Be right with you both. Okay. Gosh, I love these guys. And I'm glad that we're doing this. Okay. I'm not ashamed of our Christianity and our faith and what we're working on here. I do think that Pastor Artur Pawlowski nailed it without a change and back to the foundation of faith. This is all for naught. And the devil's going to win. Satan's going to win. And Pastor Nathan, I really liked how he's a young guy. He was in the belly of the beast in Toronto. He saw what was happening there, came out here, saw what's possible here, and he's standing up in Grand Prairie doing it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I've shared his Linktree link in the chat, so you can see all the things that Pastor Nathan is associated with.
Yep. And next time we're in Grand Prairie, we definitely have to hook up Pastor Nathan. So hold on there. Gentlemen, we're going to say goodbye. But if you like this, subscribe, share it, get it out there. This is about sharing the message. Okay, folks?
Yep.
And if you want to join us in this extended interview, you can go to levineshow.com, get yourself started as a supporter. It's all recorded, so you can go back and check it out. And also for our locals, we'll be reposting the Bruce Party one from Friday, because some of it got missed on the tech glitch of my doing. So everybody else, have yourself a wonderful day.
Yeah, take care, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Take care of each other, and God bless.